Huh. What? Okay. Then just remove it. Go live on my Facebook, not that. Yeah, go live there.
Wait.
Uncheck Facebook page and go live on Facebook. Yeah, there. It's good. Well, okay. I guess we can keep Facebook for now. Unless we want to do it to Twitch. I thought I had a professional account on X.
Oh.
All right, folks. Thank you for being here. It is Wednesday night. I am excited to get going. This one's going to be an interesting night tonight. Tonight is going to be a little more nuts and bolts than normal. A little bit more math than normal, which is to say some math. We never do math on this show. But anyway, hi, I'm Pepper. This is the Godly Trading Podcast. That's the producer over there. Welcome to our Wednesday night live stream. Before we dive in, a couple of programming notes. First and foremost, if you watched our fantastic podcast interview with Paulie on Sunday evening, in the frame of mind of talking about creating trade plans, if you are a member of our Discord channel, he's put in a fantastic video that he recorded showing how he developed his own strategy that he's using right now. If you have ever bought a book, an ebook, or anything like that, then you have access to the Discord channel. You've got an email from me. Let us know. We'll get you in. You can watch that great video. Tonight, I wanted to talk about it. This is a subject that has come up here recently. People have been asking me and I'm talking to some other traders who may or may not have had a very good August or summer. By the way, just to get the party started, which is, I hate that term, drop me a comment in the comments. Just the appropriate place to put it. Let me know where you are watching from. St. Petersburg or Texas or Earth, whatever. Solar system, that kind of a thing. I know. What are we? Earth 616 according to the Marvel universe, something like that. Anyway, Boomer says Johnny. Oh, I'm not supposed to read that until he puts it up on the screen. I have to take a swig of the world's worst tasting liquid because this is like all artificial. Oh, sorry. That'll teach me to read comments before
I put them up on the screen.
you put them up on the screen. Anyway, let's dive into tonight. Ollie says Indiana, God's country. People have been asking me about my trade plan's not doing this, my trade plan's not doing that. How do I know if it's not working? How do I know if it is working? I feel like nothing's. I get the discouragement. I have Johnny says I disagree about Indiana being God's country. I have been in Indiana for about 20 minutes. We were going to the Creation Museum in Kentucky, and I crossed the border to get gas and crossed back the border. That's the extent of my time in Indiana was purchasing gas. Though I hear the weather's up there nice. So people are asking me about how do you know when the trade plan's not working? This concept of being discouraged in your trade plan. One of my buddies right now is going through a tough time, and you can kind of hear it when he talks about his trading. That it's discouraging, especially if you have had success in the same exact system in the past, and now you are not having what you would consider success. Sorry, that was me trying to throw a punching bag at my producer for not putting up a chat. I missed. He's 2 feet away, and I missed. Kathy's from Wichita, Kansas. For the reason I thought you were in Texas. All right. So how do you know when things aren't working, and how do you make it through this feeling? In some ways, it's almost better when on the beginning you can say, well, okay, I don't really know if it's working yet or not, so let me just keep going. But he's like, dadgummit, things were working 2 months ago, and now it's not working. Look, I understand it. Sean says, I'm not going to do it, Sean. The idea of saying your national phrase to say hello popped into my mind, but I'm not going to because I would butcher the accent. Case in point about being discouraged, right? We run Facebook ads to sell the book, and up until about a week and a half ago, they were just doing their thing. Every day I'd spend this much on ads, and I could expect to spend to sell this many books. Yes, I'm not going to do it. G'day, I'm not going to do it. And then about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, just like boop, nothing. That's often how it feels in our trading. How do you do that? We talked before, Valley of the Shadow of Death. The only way out is through. Let me show you something that you can use to give you a concrete example of what I'm talking about with how do you know when things are or are not working. So tonight's going to be some testimonial time for me showing you my results, my everything. First slide. Let's go ahead and pop the slides up there. We'll see if I can do this on remote control. That's fine. So dealing with the ups and downs of trading. And I mean specifically, not even your emotions. Tonight, we've been dealing with emotions a lot. Tonight's going to be about your trading account and the ups and downs of that actual dollar amount. And how can we deal with that? So, next slide. But before we dive anything, I love this verse because when you think about what Solomon was talking about back in the day, how was wealth measured? Yeah, they didn't have minted coins. So sure, they had big giant lumps of silver and gold, but by and large, wealth, businesses, was an agrarian culture. Everything was in flocks and to a smaller extent, crops, but most of it was in livestock. So be diligent to know the state of your flocks, the state of your business, the state of your money-making operation, and attend to your herds. In other words, do your books, stay on top of them. Be diligent to know how your trading account is doing, not just day by day, trade by trade, but the overall account itself. So with that, next, should I throw this at his head every time? I need a clicker. So this is my Darwin X account for it absolutely, Johnny, a tough verse. I didn't read it. It is a tough verse because without geeking out on the Hebrew, I would love to know all of the different variations of the word diligent. What did I say that was? Proverbs 27:23. You look up in my handy dandy Blue Letter Bible. By the way, if anybody needs a study resource, blueletterbible.org is fantastic. So here on the fly, 27:23, is that what I said? Yes. So the word there for diligent, be diligent, is yada. Ooh, heard that word before. Yada means to have knowledge, to perceive, to tell, to be acquainted with, to be wise and have knowledge in. All of those things. Have all of the knowledge and wisdom and just be discriminating in the state of your flocks. We can be here all night long. That's for Sunday night is Bible study for traders. Johnny, you're trying to get me distracted. This is my Darwin X account. And you can see for up until May, I'm just killing it. It's doing its thing. And then I had that big May. Okay, big deal. And then a couple up months, couple down months. And you think, well, this thing was humming along. And then what happened? Is it, leave in May and stay away, that whole summertime thing? Well, no, you look at last May. Last May is radically different than this May. Before I go explaining this any further, let me just dive into the details. All right, so next slide. So this is that on a graph. This is the actual day-by-day equity curve for my Darwin X account. So it's Johnny's fault now. I'm not going to pile on to Johnny. I'm not going to say he's always the one getting me off track. I'm not going to say that. This is the return chart of my Darwin X account. Every little tick is a day, is a trade, all of that. And you look at, okay, you know what? You squint your eyes, you tilt your head, and it's a nice little curve. Looks pretty good, actually. I'm happy with it. So I'm looking at this and remembering 7th grade geometry or algebra, whatever it is we learned in junior high and high school. I thought, you could probably put like a line in the middle there. So next slide. I did that. Now this is specifically called, when I swatch you, that means the next slide. I think there's like a noise or something. This is called a manual regression line. And again, I did say we're going to be dealing with some math tonight. A running linear trend line manually calculated over time to represent the average directional movement of the account balance, smoothing out short-term fluctuations. Does everybody have that? Does everybody get what I'm saying here? Next slide. So you could show the actual line, or you could put a trend line on this. Think of the first one. Go back to. Think of this one as like a moving average, and forward to this as a trend line of that moving average. And you look at that, okay, this is actually helpful. I can see that even though I have ups and downs, swing highs and swing lows. I mean, if this was a chart of Tesla, you'd be like, okay, well, we're approaching a supply zone, so maybe I'm not going to get long here. But man, back in what month was that have been? Back in June, that was a great time to buy Tesla. If this was a stock chart. It's funny how you see these repeating patterns in nature. I mean, God has put this oscillation in all of our life. 10% overall. Yeah, 10% overall. And for me, I'd go back and forth between the squiggly line, which is specific, and this line, which is easier to read. I'm a little OCD in that respect. So anyway, I put a manual regression line on this. Okay, well, what can I learn from this? Well, first thing I can learn is I can say, regardless of how I feel right now, I can look at that blue line and say, that's a pretty good slope. I'm happy with that. Could the slope be at a higher angle? Sure. What would that require? Well, that would require me not being a swing trader 15 minutes a day. That would require me taking on more risk. That would require me trading a different system in a different way. By the way, if you're looking at trading, if you want to learn how to do a trading system, I would highly recommend jumping in. This is probably the last way you can jump in. Go ahead and click our family-friendly trading class. We just finished our first 2 lessons. We have our open Q&A on Friday. If you want to join late, don't forget the month of, what are we in? September. The month of September, It's 40% off after this month. Price is going up and staying up. You won't have missed much. There's replays. We have an open Q&A on Friday. There's the plug. Go to godlytrading.com/class. Today and tomorrow, probably the last days you can get in this month and not feel like you're too far behind. All right. You look at this, you think, hey, this does look like a stock chart. It's amazing how these patterns repeat in nature. One day, probably Wednesday night, I will dive into Fibonacci numbers, kind of things you saw on laws, right? I will dive because there are these repeating numbers that God has put in nature. When you look at the spiral of a shell or any spiral that occurs in nature, those numbers are in there. We're not getting into that. What I would like to say is that these patterns are repeated all throughout nature, and they just point to a creator. You can't have an explosion in a Ford plant and a whole bunch of F-150s fall into the parking lot, right? God is the author of patterns and order. God is not a God of disorder or confusion. Anyway, you look at this line and think, okay, that looks pretty good. What can I do with this? All right, next slide. So I said, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, and this one took me back to classes I don't remember. Standard deviation, boundary line plotted above or below a regression line. Remember, I had the dotted line was the actual regression line, and the thin blue one was the trend line. It's plotted above or below a regression line that marks a typical range of an account balance fluctuations, capturing about 68% of the historical variation. Next slide. So remember, this was our linear regression line. And I know, you're like, Pepper, dude, this is not at all trading with joy and Bible study. Nope, this is specifics to help you get over some of the things you might. It also looks like most people's walk of. Oh man, if my children, the producer and the IT department had a youth minister that used to reference what's called a Jesus juke, where you'd be having a conversation about football or hamburgers. And he'd be like, yeah, but what does God think about that? It's like, oh, he just Jesus juked us. He just took whatever we were talking about and pointed it back to God. That's fantastic. And yes, you're right. If one were to plot a chart of our walk with God, it would look like this. If we're being honest, it would absolutely look like this. I'm not going to try to apply standard deviation to my walk with God, but I did on my trading account. So if this is the linear regression for my trading account, let me apply, next slide, standard deviation. So these are two lines on here that tell me that captures the entire range of my account. And I'm sitting here and I'm staring at this. Okay, well, this actually makes me feel better, because even when I'm getting these dips are going down to a particular area. And when I'm going up to the top, they're going up to a particular area. Now, if you look at these flat spots, don't worry about that. DarwinX has a particular aspect, being that it's a prop firm. They say, hey, you've met your goal for the month. And sometimes I stop trading for the month when they send me that email. It all goes back to the story of the guy gives the talents to his three servants, and they do what the master wanted them to do. Two of them did. One of them didn't, the wicked guy. But anyway, so that's why those flat tops are there. But you look at it, okay, well, even in the midst of May, which goes from the green line to the red line. That's May. That was my May. It was fantastic in its horrificness. Everything's still going according to plan. I'm still inside of one standard deviation of this. And so, first things first, this can help me feel better, for lack of a better term. All right, next slide. So I said, okay, if you are, to simplify this is the regression line is a trend line, and next slide, this would be the standard deviation of this trend line. So whether you want it to be simplified or very specific, easy to do this. And I've got the spreadsheet, by the way, or Google Sheet. I'm happy to share it with anybody who wants it. So the question then becomes, all right, well, you've shown me this, and it's interesting. and you can see a pretty nice slope. You can see some ups and downs in it. By and large, I would say I almost said price, because you're right, Sean. This looks just like a stock chart. By and large, my account balance is following that blue line on its way up. What can I do with this? And this is what I wanted to share with you now. All right, next slide. Here are some uses for this information and how you can take this specifically and apply it to your account to help you be a better trader. All right, use number one, click. Everything is going according to plan. All right, next slide. So looking at this, you can look at it and say, okay, the blue line is the average, the green is the upper boundary, the red is the lower boundary. I'm still going up. I'm still staying, by and large, within, by the way, those little gray dash lines, that's 1/2 standard deviation. So I'm still staying within, most of the time, plus or minus half of one standard deviation. So one use of it, like I mentioned, is to say, hey, yeah, everything's still going according to plan. You look at the very end of that, right? The last 2 weeks, honestly, the last 2 months, you say, well, Pepper, looks like you're just sort of sliding sideways along the 110,000 mark. And you'd be right. The last 2 weeks has literally been $500 up and down either side of 110,000. Dead sideways over the course of the last 2 weeks. Couldn't tell. I had my first real big stop loss on Monday. Monday overnight's Tuesday. So I took a trade on the pound US, the cable, as some call it, the GU as others call it. Well, to be honest, I've only ever heard Paulie call it that. I took a long of that thing on Monday afternoon, and about 8 hours later, it triggered a full stop loss. I mean, I haven't had a trade stop out. Proper risk management, I lost the exact same amount that I normally lose, but I haven't had a trade stop out that quickly in a long time. It usually takes a war or a tweet for that to happen. I don't know what happened with the pound on Monday, but man, did it move. And so I had like 3 or 4 take profits, and that one stop loss, took me back down again. So it is literally like you get away from that center line and price snaps back, or in this case, your account snaps back. So one thing you can look at this and say, hey, I've been going sideways, and it just feels like nothing's happening. It feels like I'm not making any headway. I'm looking at this chart. Okay, everything's still going according to plan. Back in May, man, I was riding high. My account was at an all-time high, and then it wasn't. You know what? It crashed down to wherever it crashed down to, and slowly made its way back up to the middle. Everything's still going according to plan, and that is that's one of the pieces you can use to quiet the barrel of monkeys in your head that's swinging from the chandeliers and eating, methamphetamine laced bananas, just telling you to click buttons and just trade and jump and do whatever to get back to where you were. Maybe the monkeys in your head aren't high on meth, but the ones in my head are. I'm gonna get canceled so quickly. So everything's still going according to plan. All right, next slide. Emotional planning. This one is really interesting for me. And yes, I recognize I'm taking emotion and logic and jamming them together in the same phrase. Emotion, planning. I know, but I'm a planner. That's what I do. I am as OCD as they come. 30-year British bond yield was breaking out to the upside. Okay. I knew something had to have happened. The king didn't die. I'm not going to make a joke. I'm not going to say anything. I'll get canceled. The very first cruise we ever went on was the day the queen died. In 2025. I'll never forget that. I was very emotional for me as an American. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but it's like all my life, up until 2022, excuse me. All my life, you'd hear, the king of what, right? What king? But you hear the phrase, the queen? There's only one. Anyway, I don't know what happened with that trade, but emotional planning. Next slide. So because of the regularity of this, you can know I say no. You can make a very highly calculated deduction that when you approach that upper green line, you probably have a reversion to the mean. By the way, that's a classic trading strategy. It is a mathematical principle and a principle in life. When you stretch a rubber band, it snaps back. When you approach either the high or the low on this chart, you have a snap back to the middle on its way. So, smiley face back here with the blue arrow. You're on the blue line. Everything's fine. You're just humming along. You're good. You get up to the green arrow. You're like, this is fantastic. I am at all-time highs. Okay. I know that I'm at the top of my standard deviation on my trading account. I know from both my own personal experience, from trading history, and from math that there is a dip on its way to me. Losing streaks come to an end. Winning streaks come to an end. You get to the bottom of that red channel where the red arrow is, and you're like, oh, May for me is just brutal. But I know this is going to end. This too shall pass, as my mother always said. And so you say, okay, I've touched the green line, tap the brakes on popping champagne corks. This is going to come to an end, and probably relatively soon. Let me prepare for that emotionally. Oh my goodness, May is just terrible. I've had 8 losing trades in a row. Worst month in 3 years. But this is going to come to an end. I know this is going to come to an end. So let me prepare myself for the expectation of brighter days ahead. And as you're on the blue line, okay, hey, things are going like normal. I'm headed up or down at some point. So you can use this chart to help you plan for the emotions that you know you're going to have to deal with. Like right now, you can see I'm between the blue line and the gray line. So odds are I've got an upswing on the way. So what do? Well, let me not fall prey to the 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Hey guys, look at my trading account emotion. Let me just try to keep things on an even keel. Let me prepare ahead of time. When we plan to fail, we fail to plan. When we fail to plan, we plan to fail. You know what I'm trying to say. So plan ahead for the emotions that you know are coming your way. Next slide. Risk management. This one is where the rubber meets the road here. Next slide. So this could be an idea for you. This is something that I am doing now. When you are between those gray lines, I am, half a standard deviation up or down from my normal linear regression line. I'm trading at my normal risk. Life is just normal. Everything is going along as it's supposed to be going along. So I'm using this chart as risk management. All right, next slide. What happened? Doing that without negativity for me is a struggle. That is true. And this does require, and thank you, Johnny, for being honest about that. This does require a certain level of cold calculations when looking at your own emotions. I will say this: you can only beat yourself up so much. There's only so much emotional energy you can spend. So one way I have done in the past is to say, well, okay, I'm going to go bouncing off the walls in my head, raging against the machine, until I'm done. Right? It's like a 2-year-old, not this one, the other one, the IT department, just kicking and screaming. Eventually, they're going to wear themselves out. Eventually, there's only so much negativity that you can apply to it, and then you're done. So one way to do it is to sit down and plan ahead and worry and stew on overdrive and get it done. Back to risk management. When I get down into this area, say, okay, I am now sort of in the outer bands of where I know I'm going to be. So let me apply some different risk management now that I'm down here, or now that I'm up here. What do I do? And that is for you to decide. What I do is, you might think that I'm crazy for doing this. When I'm down in the bottom trough, like, you know what? I'm approaching the red outer band standard deviation line. That's the point that I know that I'm not for almost 2 years now. 3 years if you include the fibers when all those Americans got dumped out. I don't have that. Sadly, I don't. I'd rather have the data than the account. You know, like, please just, if you're going to kick me out of MT5, the fibers, at least give me my data, but they didn't. And so anyway, I'm not bitter about it, as you can tell. So for 3 years, I know, hey, I'm down here. I know that an upswing is coming. So here's what I do. I increase my risk. You say, what now? So you're in a losing streak and you increase your risk. Yeah, absolutely. Because what's the most likely thing to follow a losing streak? Not a losing streak. The opposite is true. When I get up to near the upper green band, okay, I'm 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I'm making money hand over fist. Now it's time to decrease my risk. Why? Because I know that I keep saying price because it looks like a price chart. That this trading winning streak that I'm on is going to come to an end. And it's going to snap back in the middle. So let's have a softer landing on that. So when I get to the top, I normally trade anywhere between 3/4 and 1%. I'm trying to, Darwin X has got a whole thing. I won't get into it. 1% is where I like to live. 0.75% is fine. Thank you, Sean. Actually, this is not my doings. The same fellow who has Maverick Trading and the fantastic Flat Earth Trading Society videos that I encourage everyone to go watch the very last video. It's not Flat Earth theory. It's supposed to be funny. But anyway, one of his traders, he's a hedge fund. One of his hedge fund traders uses this. I heard this about 5 years ago. I thought, you know what? It's time to start applying this. So living at 0.75% risk there in the middle. Get down to the bottom, go up to 1%. All right, I'm not going crazy. Just going up next 25%. I guess technically I'm going up an extra 30%, aren't I? I'm adding 25% to 75. So yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Get down to the bottom, add 25% risk. 0.25% risk. It's a big difference between those two. Get up to the top, go from 0.75 down to 0.5. And then get back down in the middle. And now I'm back in that 0.75 range, risk per trade, or whatever. I'm just saying that using this to adjust your risk. I'm not saying this is everyone should. I'm just offering it as an opportunity. Hey, not only can we manage our emotions, let's apply it to risk management. Next slide. This last one's interesting, and I do some of this, like I said, with my prop firm account. Next slide. When I hit the target that Darwin X wants me to hit every month, I stop trading. Why? Because the owner of the money I've satisfied the requirements that the owner of the money set forth. When the guy left in Luke and in Mark, one of the two, in Luke and the other gospel, the guy leaves town. He says, "Go and trade," and they do, and they both double their money to the penny, to the talent. And you think, well, what are the odds of that? What are the odds that he shows back up again just at the exact moment that one guy hits 100% return? What are the odds that he shows up at the exact time that two guys hit 100% return? Very, very, very small. So odds are that's what they knew he wanted. Double his money, and they stopped. When Darwin X says, "Hey, give me 2%," I give him 2% and I stop. So I do have some of this in there. This is an idea for some of you. If you're trading, if you're talking back to the first word, know the state of your flocks. If your account gets outside of your normal band, that's when it is appropriate to stop and say, "Hey, I'm no longer within the realm of normal." Right? First thing I do is, hey, I go look at my back testing. You talk to people around you. Is this predicted? Oh, this actually isn't predictive. I'm not really supposed to be below the red band. Really don't want to be above the green band. I mean, okay, fine. I had an oil trade that I put on one day. I was long oil. And that night, war broke out between Israel and Iran. And guess what happened to my oil trade? It hit take profits 1, 2, and 3 in about 5 minutes. It's going to happen sometimes. I could have been in it the other way. So you're going to have some spikes. But if you start to live outside of that upper or lower band, that's when you know things aren't going according to plan. Things are not normal. So let me do some introspection. Is it me? Is it the market? Something's legitimately changed, and I don't know what. Well, if you don't know what, and you do feel like something is legitimately changed, that is an opportunity, a legitimate opportunity to say, I'm tapping the brakes. I'm going to do a mental reset, because you're going to go nuts. Ask me how I know. You're going to go nuts mentally when you get down below. And when you get up above the green, you're going to be insufferable. Ask me how I know. So those are the times when you might have a trade management rule that says, I'm going to tap the brakes. I'm gonna kick back to one trade a day, or one trade a week, or I'm gonna take the week off, or the rest of the month, whatever it is. Take that as an opportunity to stop and say, what is going on? Ask some people, but don't keep trying to fix it in the midst of that. I tell everybody, how you know about the pause button? Yeah, been there so many times. I tell the folks in our class and traders and all this, like, look, don't meddle with your trade. Don't make a decision about the direction of your trade while it's open. If you want to add a rule to your trade plan, fantastic, but you do it when the trade is closed. The same thing applies here. Don't make a decision about the direction of your entire trade plan, your entire strategy, in the midst of an emotional extreme swing. Does that make sense? So that is this. Those are the times when it probably is appropriate to stop for a day, a week, whatever it is, and pray, research yourself backwards, and also, thank you, Johnny, talk to others, because this is one of the reasons that the groups are so great. You can show people. So it might be that, hey, everyone on the planet had this exact same thing happen to them. Last week. I have had 3 or 4 different people from different walks of life tell me that the second half of August was odd. I've had a couple of traders in our group. I had the guy I'm taking his course on how to run Facebook ads. He teaches you the system for running Facebook ads. I forget the other area of my life that I have, but I've basically had 3 completely separate areas of my life where the second half of August wasn't working in all these other areas. And I had validation from other people. Hey, yeah, me too. So, okay. Maybe it's not me. Maybe there's something going on. Again, when something goes out of the ordinary, you look at it, first things first, is it you? It's not you. Is it the system? If it's not the system, it's the market. It's one of those 3. And if you can find somebody else that says, the pound, oh my goodness, don't even try the pound right now. Pound has just lost its mind. Okay, that helps you when you dip below this red band. Or if you are on the other side of it, you dip above or pull above the green band. Okay, it's not me. It's just the pound's gone nuts, and I just had to be lucky and catch the upswing. So let me put on the full armor of God. Most probably odds in the markets, because the markets are waiting for Jackson. It could be. There are some news events out there that I avoid like the plague. I don't trade when the FOMC is going to open their mouth. When Powell, for as long as he has his job, goes and sits in front of Congress and opens his mouth. Once upon a time, there were some news events I did avoid, like Bank of fill in the blank, when they made an announcement. But right now, it's generally speaking, when Powell makes an official announcement, I avoid. So Jackson Hole's one of those things. Who knows what it is? But all that to say, this, looking at where you are on your equity curve can help you say, oh, you know what? I planned ahead for this. I have gone outside the boundaries. Let me stop and do some investigation. If no other reason, get my head back in the right place. Maybe at the end of 2 or 3 days of praying and researching, you say, you know what? It was me. I didn't realize it, but I had let this bad habit creep in. Or my system never predicted or didn't have, I think the whole economy is kind of on hold to a point. Well, that's true. Like I said, it's one of 3 things. It's you, the market, or the system. You just look and say, you know what? My system never took this into account. And that happens. For as much as I love building trade plans and I love teaching people how to build a trade plan, you cannot complete and set in stone your trade plan in a month or two. You're going to get 99% of the way there and spend the next 2 or 3 years adding that 1%, because you're going to run across things that you didn't think of back when you were building it. So it could be your system. It could be the world has gone nuts. Frankly, the world's always kind of nuts. Or it could be, like I said, you could look back and say, well, why did I do that? Why? Oh, I remember that day why did I enter that gold trade? Well, I remember that day I was rushing out the door to go down to see Nick and the IT department. And so so you can just let something slip. So stopping trading is absolutely appropriate at that time. All right, get rid of the slides. So I just wanted to share this with you. When I started doing a deep dive into this recently, I thought, this is really cool. It's going to shock you all. I kind of started geeking out on it. I know. Shocked. It's my shocked face. But you know what? This is really valuable. If for no other reason, those first two, for emotional planning. Hey, yeah, this month sucked, but everything's still going according to plan. Oh, I'm at a losing streak. Well, there's a brighter tomorrow because these things in. By the way, to prove that point, has anybody here ever opened a brand new account or added money to your account? Or has anybody here ever leveled up their trading somehow because you've been doing success? Hey, now that I've demo tested this for 6 months, I'm in a good spot. Now I'm gonna get a prop firm account, or I'm gonna put my own real money. Has anyone ever had your very first month or your very first period of time on a brand new thing be a losing streak? Why does it always seem like the minute I buy that prop firm account, the first thing I hit is, losses? Because it was being at the top of that equity curve that gave you the boost of confidence that you needed to go get the account, which meant it was just timing. Honestly, frankly, you should wait till you're at the bottom of your standard deviation on your chart to go get your account. Every single sneaking time. It is. That's the reason we gain the confidence through this other thing, prop firm, demo account or whatever it is. It's okay. Hey, I've done this for 2 or 3 months. I'm feeling good about this strategy. I'm feeling good about this account. Let me go out and let me get that prop firm account. Well, my goodness, it was. And I bet if you, and I did this by the way. Again, I lament the fact that I don't have my trade data from the fivers. Because if I was able to attach it to the beginning of that chart, the second or third slide we saw, Mr. Producer, can you get back to the slide, the black slide with all the very hard to read numbers? It was slide number 3. The very first month I had with the fivers, with DarwinX, was minus 4.82%. But if I could fill in January, February, and March from the fivers, it would have been like 5 and 6 and 4%. And it was the very confidence I got from the fivers going, oh, hey, this system's working well. Let me get another prop firm. It was that confidence that gave me the idea to go to another prop firm account. And I got that confidence because, unbeknownst to me, I was at the top of my equity curve. So that's why. All right, we have a winning streak and say, hey, now's the time to step out in faith. And that's when God says, hey, this is why it's called stepping out in faith. Does anybody here? Most people here are my age-ish. Indiana Jones was if one can have a hero and idol. All right, you can get rid of the slide. If one can have a hero or an idol, Indiana Jones as a kid was mine. And so Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, best movie of them all. Sean Connery, it's hard to beat that. But there's that scene where he is standing on that ravine, and he cannot. There's a chasm he can't jump across. He knows for a fact he's not going to make it if he tries to jump. And he says, "Oh, it's a test of faith," and you can just see it on his face. He goes, "Oh, crap! It's a test of faith. This is the leap of faith. Oh man!" And that's what we all go through when we start this new thing, and it seems to fail. That is our step of faith, our leap of faith that says, "Hey, are we going to step out Smooth transition. That's not the IT department. That's the producer. Sorry. He took high offense at that. Sorry about that. You have no idea to know that. But this is why. All right. We get bolstered by our success. We try something new. It just is timing that the new thing fails. And then God uses that as a step of faith. All right, Pepper, your very first month. The whole point of DarwinX is to present your trading abilities to potential investors. And the very first thing I presented to them was minus 4 point whatever percent. But anyway, so I just wanted to share this with you guys. If anybody wants a copy of the Google Sheet with all the formulas in it to spit this thing out, let me know, and I'll be happy to send it to anybody. I will do my best to embed the Google Drive link into this video, if that's a thing that YouTube allows people to do. And all you got to do is just drop in your dates and your running account balance, and it will do the rest for you. And then it can spit you out. I'm working on right now attaching an automation that will automatically update that chart day by day by day. So all those things are out there and available. Do you have any questions before I get out of here? I know this was very different. I hope I still was able to sprinkle enough Jesus over the top of this. And nice job, Chris. I think yes, it is, Chris. I do hope I was able to ground this in Scripture enough. At least we who are trying to know the state of our flocks can use a mouse and go click, 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 and know the entire state of our flocks, as opposed to sending 30 guys out over 50 hills and try to count, right? Counting sheep. So I feel blessed that we had this. So, guys, thank you all for being here. Sunday, we're back at it with our Bible study for traders. We'll have another podcast a week after that, another interview. Excited about that one. So, with that, guys, thank you for being here. I'll see you all next time.